We welcome you to Bolton Learning Partnership, a unique and ambitious educational partnership comprising of 28 secondary schools and colleges in Bolton, working collaboratively with Bolton Council. Together we support one another to raise educational standards for all 19,000 students in Bolton at all levels and from all backgrounds. Strong values of courage, honesty, ambition, respect and trust drive all that we do. Through a shared belief in these values and working together, we shape and drive education, ensuring a quality-first approach. Through our core objectives of leadership, teaching and learning and intervention, we share best practice, deepen skills and knowledge, and support the raising of attainment and progress of all students. Our aim is to develop our capacity as self-improving schools and colleges. In the first of our podcasts, we welcome Patrick Ottley O'Connor, Head Teacher at Westhoughton High School. Patrick has been a Head Teacher for 17 years and Practising Teacher for 37 years. In this podcast, Patrick will introduce us to the Westhoughton Talent Development Programme, a programme with an aim to encourage, engage and empower all teachers and leaders to develop and maintain their expertise in and passion for teaching and learning. Through the course of this podcast, we will discuss the Westhoughton Talent Development Programme, its strategy and process, its potential impact on educational practice, providing both equality and equity for all, and ask how the programme can benefit other schools across Bolton Learning Partnership and beyond. So, Patrick, welcome. In the first of our podcasts, we're talking to Patrick Ottley O'Connor, who is Head Teacher at Westhoughton High School, has been a practising Head Teacher for 17 years and a teacher for 37 years now. So Patrick's going to talk to us about the Westhoughton Talent Development Programme. So Patrick, I'd be really interested to hear about the strategy, also the process behind it, and the underpinning kind of thoughts as to why you developed the programme in the first place.
Okay, well, first of all, you said it's 17th year as a head teacher, and along the way I've done lots of learning, or mistakes, as you know, as it comes, but one of the things that's been central to that is actually my learning, but also the professional learning of others. And I wrestled for some time around performance management, around how we grow or don't grow, and it was tied into those things, thinking it had to be done a certain way, and I thought there had to be a different way. It's probably about 10 years ago, really, where I developed a framework to use around this, and that's the basis of what I've introduced here at Westhoughton. But as I go to a variety of schools to put a similar process in, it's always got to be bespoke to where we are. So I'll use the example in Westhoughton now. When I arrived, I set the brief to, we have a very talented set of leads here, Ali Spence and Carol Holmes. I know within Bolton, along with Claire Cronin, the deputy, set them the challenge of we want to look at a talent development framework and a programme, and based on using some of the wonderful things that I've done through BLP already, capturing those within it. I talked in terms of I want something that really encourages, engages and empowers colleagues to see and own their own CPD well-being and their own development, and not be predicated on this hero model, but actually to be more around hero makers and developing and growing other people, with equity right at its heart of opportunity, and not equality and equity, in fact, but I'll talk about that shortly.
We can pick up on that.
And really to make sure we put some sustainable practice in place that prioritises the teaching and learning curriculum aspects we need within the school, that really focuses on the colleagues so they can make the biggest difference for our students. So the framework that came in is that, although it's the broad framework I've bought, it's those colleagues who've developed that, again with the other talent we have within school already, that help pull this together.
Which is really important because it helps them to have a sense of ownership as well, doesn't it? So, excellent. So what type of opportunities, what does the framework look like? Well,
the framework, if I was to have a spine of a school going up, the actual main spine starts off with our pre-entry, before ITT, if people are even thinking about entering it, to create some opportunities there for people to come and try. So it may be people within our own school who are maybe working in an office or at LSA or wherever to try some things, or even externally people that want to come and have trying experiences and allowing those to, or even inspiring our own students to teach. We always need good teachers, so actually doing that and being the role models we want for those students to go as well. So looking at those pre-entry, and then the ITT phase into the early career framework, and really important. Carol, again, as I said, is engaged in doing some work really quite well regionally with our provider at the moment, and we use that knowledge to shape what we do with our early career framework right now for the colleagues and the activities we do, but also then going into that twilight zone or danger period, year 3 to 5, where we seem to lose so many teachers.
Yeah.
What do we do for those colleagues who aren't middle leaders yet, but they no longer got the support and work that's gone on when they were lower? They had earlier, but we still need. And actually, when you think about that, what about the colleagues, again, who don't have a TLR or a leadership responsibility, who may have been in school for 10 years doing the role they're doing, or come back from maternity leave, step down, and now in that position or wanted to kickstart again, or whatever the role, what do we do for them?
Yeah.
And then actually going into that, then in the next part of that middle phase, those people who have got the TLR or the leadership responsibility, how we're developing and growing those.
Yeah.
And into senior and beyond, in fact, for the head teacher, CEO, whoever you are within the organisation, because as a learning organisation, we all model how it should be done. It's not just I'm the head, you get on and learn.
Yeah.
We're all learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all working together, isn't it, towards a common vision and
head teacher,
mission.
head learner.
Yeah.
Talk about being a supermodel for lots of things, and actually I have to model my learning and my lack of knowledge around things as well, and that vulnerability.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that we model that with colleagues together as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's the spine, but if I take back a stage, if I can already, in the foundations of the programme, and it's predicated, when I said before about the equality, before how we come to that. So for me, the school should have a solid floor. By solid floor, I mean everybody within the organisation should be on board with our values-based vision.
Yeah.
Should all be pointing in the same direction. We should also be individually having an impact at the level we want to have. So if I then focus on every single colleague, I ask them to own their own situation. Are they on board? And are they having an impact in their role? So is the NQT having a career stage expected impact at that level? Yeah. Is the new head of year having that? Is the deputy having that? Is it everybody's role, whatever you are we having that impact? And when people are having that impact, it's, okay, now you could do that. I encourage them to own their own CPD. Yeah. Own it, however they're going to grow with there, and actually dare to, if you like, act a level above the pay spine. Okay. I think as a younger teacher, it was frowned upon to try and do other things. From some people, anyway, you don't want to be doing something for nothing. Well, actually, it's about making and contributing to the whole school, the greater good to that mission of the school. Also, in terms of your own development, it's the time to learn and play and grow.
Gaining the experience
and gaining the experience beforehand.
Others,
yeah.
And
actually, that's where my eyes were opened in recent years to actually how lucky I've been in my career. I used to think I was just lucky. You know, I thought hard work and talent equaled success. Well, actually, when I look at it through my eyes and through the lens of a white, straight, non-disabled old man, it's happened for me. But actually, the bit missing from that equation when I said hard work plus talent is quite often opportunity. Yes, yeah. And that lack of opportunity. You look at the gender pay gap that we have. Yeah. You look within the country about the proportion of BAME leaders or BAME teachers we have within schools, but less than 3% are head teachers. The opportunities that we have in place for colleagues, we want to make sure we've got real equity in there. So talk openly in there around this formula being, it's around hard work, talent and opportunity. Yeah. Creates success. So engaging with organisations, encouraging colleagues to do the same. Many of those available, but such as Women Ed, BAME Ed, LGBT Ed, Disability Ed, Diverse Ed, educators. And our own version of that, we call it our Westhoughton ID, which is the Westhoughton Inclusion and Diversity group for colleagues and students to really make sure that every aspect of school where it's branded along those, and things are looked at, policies are looked at, practices are looked at, but our own talent development and process and opportunities that are out there for people. So
that's part of that.
Yeah. Rather than putting barriers in front of people and closing down opportunities, we're removing barriers and opening those doors of opportunity. Now they're just words. This tool.
But they underpin everything that you're doing in terms of the Westhoughton talent development.
And the talent development programme allows us to do that and model that and walk that talk, as it were. So that's the basis of the project is right there.
So what are the types of opportunities that people could access? So say if they were at SLT level, what are the types of opportunities that they could access then through the programme? Okay, so this is not the Emperor's New Clothes, or it's not teaching anyone to suck eggs here. Probably 80% of what we do is what we're all doing anyway, what schools Westhoughton was doing. We've just given it a framework. Yeah. So, for example, I had some middle leaders doing the NPQML. Yeah. I had some doing NPQSL, there's NPQH.
we drop those into our pro forma. Some people who are doing masters, those teachers who are done after the first year in QT are doing masters in their RQT, that's in the programme. Some of the people doing masters later on through the apprenticeship levy or through wherever else, they go on, so they're in there. We've also then programmes that we've traditionally done here, like an outstanding teacher programme, and that's okay, that's for those colleagues are there. But when you look at it and you've got it mapped out, you see that actually this group of people here have got nothing.
Yeah. So
let's put a programme there. It could be an aspiring middle leaders programme, or it could be an aspiring senior leaders programme, or it could be, we've done enough aspiring, we've got people there, it's a senior leaders programme, or it's a whatever else. So making sure we've got the right programmes in there, so the right horses on the right courses at the right stage and pace, so that really bespokes our CPD. And I'll talk about how we time our CPD shortly as well, if that helps.
Right. Yeah.
But having those things in place there really helps. So you said look at a senior level. So when I first arrived in school, this was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, I talk openly about support plans. Now support plans, a bit of a dirty word in education, or seem to have become, and for some people it can mean get your coat, you're off.
Yeah, it can be a negative.
And it's a real negative. Yeah. So right on day one when I met colleagues, I met the whole staff, I had to meet them in chunks of 30 because of restrictions, but we met them and I talked openly and said, a part of my opening speech to colleagues, I've already got 2 members of staff on support plans. And you saw people go, recoil and think, what? And I said, I'll name them for you now. And you could see people just panic. I said, Caroline and Claire. There are 2 deputies.
Yeah.
Stunning. Great deputies, going to become wonderful, going to become great heads in their own right as well. It's just great. And I said, Caroline and Claire, and you could then see people going, looking at each other going, what's happening?
Going on?
What's happening?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, already through the Women Ed network, I do some coaching through Women Ed, and through there, pulled a few favours and spoke to a few people, 2 really stunning executive leaders from that network who are now coaches for Caroline and Claire, to help them become the best possible deputies they can be and also help them on that trajectory towards headship. Both got them signed up for MPQH.
Yeah.
Both.
So it's a supportive measure to really help
a support
them
plan.
develop.
It's a support plan.
Yeah.
It's not right. It really isn't rocket science, is it? So they've got their support plan. Along with that, as well as me as head teacher, I line manage them, but also in my role, in the role I have here within Westhoughton, I mentor them as well. So I provide some work around that. They've got a wrap-around package, and I put the invitation out. Anybody else want a support plan? Just let me know.
Yeah.
And of course people do. People want that.
Which is fantastic, because again it helps people to grow, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like they're supported.
Well, that was the launch
generally.
of the talent development programme.
Yeah,
The next
brilliant.
meeting I then shared the framework. The next meeting we did whatever else. Carol and Ali created our framework and populated it. The thing we did here is for really not particularly good, but our support staff were under catered for within appraisals and performance management. It wasn't particularly strong. So we put in a really robust process that mirrored the staff process in terms of performance management. And in our staff perception questionnaires, when I asked them now, just in our 3rd one this year, colleagues are saying they feel valued, they feel listened to, they've had new opportunities in terms of the operation they do. So for example, I've got an LSA, only 2 years to go. She's at the top of the game, she's wonderful, she's going to retire in a couple of years, works part-time.
Yeah.
This is not really for me, this development. I don't think I need to. I said, well, I've got a couple of people here who are doing really well, but young, and could do with some coaching maybe, or some mentoring, and
So
could you do that?
coach.
And could you do that? Oh, I could do that. So you'd like a little bit of training for that? I could have that training, yeah. Okay, so they are suddenly liberated and lifted, and what an impact you can have in your twilight years of your career as well as you go. So it's actually about liberating some colleagues. And in fact, using this tool for the first time properly in this way, I was in a school that was in special measures. We came out of special measures on the back of the work we'd done here in terms of creating capacity, and the line that got past moderators, probably the lines I'm most proud of from Ofsted inspection, that said leaders said they'd been freed from bureaucratic tasks and teachers have been liberated to teach.
Fantastic.
And that's what this is.
Yeah, so you talked then about coaching.
Yes.
So coaching, I know, underpins a lot of the programme, or all of the programme in fact.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Well, this is really the sprinkle of fairy dust that makes it work.
Okay.
So you've got the core of what we say in the programmes.
The core opportunities.
Core opportunities. And actually for some of those programmes, so the MPQH, you get a coach as part of that.
Yeah.
So actually I have a series of columns down this side on the sheet that I use. We can share the sheet.
We will be sharing the sheet on the website.
But on there, so you're on the programme, let's just say you've got your sheet, so Caroline or Claire, would say senior leader, and they tick the box for MPQH, they tick the box for the pathway to headship, they're there.
Yeah.
But along this side here, they get a coach as part of the MPQH, the part of the mentoring work I'm doing with, or the external, they get a tick there, so they tick coach twice on their sheet. The next one talks about work shadowing.
Okay.
So actually, as part of your MPQH, you do 5 days in another school, or you do that time.
Yeah.
So they would have some work shadowing somewhere else. Let's just say you weren't that, but you were an aspiring Senko. Talk about a normal year, for example, maybe when we're able to visit and see people and so on. I might have an aspiring Senko here who works alongside our Senko, but would really value from going to another school within Bolton or elsewhere to work alongside somebody once the exam students have left, to go and shadow and see 1 day a week or whatever else to go and
Which
see
of
the
course
role.
being in Bolton Learning Partnership as well gives you that perfect opportunity to actually work across these
It's ready made, so my framework just
Absolutely.
slots into the framework in
Yeah,
terms of where we are.
absolutely.
So those opportunities, so that would be a tick there, that would be a tick there. As part of that as well, it's special projects that people can do. So I have a series of people in associate positions where there's no money, necessarily no time, it's just for opportunity for people to go, to be able to lead on Most Able or on PPG, which is an issue for us, or about motivating boys, or whatever those opportunities that are in there to be able to do. Again, so they can do special projects. Anybody that does any of the MPQs, I sign off they can do the MPQs as long as their project fulfills one of our needs within school. So actually they then have to report and feed that back in. So it's not just your standalone. I want them to be able to speak to a group of leaders. I want them to be able to speak to governors. I want them to be able to speak to other things to gain those competencies you need as you go along. So actually those things that could just be chores or jobs or things you've been to ask, you know how your year's going to pan out. You know that you're going to be speaking to the governors in September, in July maybe. You know that you're going to have to go on that placement to go and observe another Senko for those 5 days at that point. You know, and you start scaffolding, and suddenly,
plan for it.
Suddenly, you've got your support plan
Yeah.
to allow you to, or your development plan to get you there. The other thing we did, which was really important, part of the feedback from the initial staff perception questionnaire on day one, was around our performance management, which was felt to be performance targets at the start of the year, dusty on a shelf or in this little shiny system we used, but not looked at till the next year. And then you couldn't remember your password, and it wasn't really owned, and it was a data-driven version. It's a bit crude explaining like that, but there was some dissatisfaction with it.
It was more.
We flipped on its head. It started and was predicated with the question I asked all colleagues individually, but then collectively as the group as well, is what do you want to be when you grow up? So where are you going? Or if not when you grow up, where are you going this year? What is your next step? What's your passion?
What's your aspiration?
What is your aspiration?
Yeah.
They're grown up words, that's good, I like that. But what do you want to be? And actually for people to be excited and find their passion, to know their passion anyway, or to reinvigorate themselves, or to find, or to see. For some people it might be to retire. It might be to retire. And actually, okay, how can you do that? What's your legacy?
Yeah.
Where are you going to do that? And how are you going to give back to where you go as you go forward? And actually we flipped our performance management targets from being about what's your data target going to be, what's your teaching going to be like, and how can we develop you?
Yeah.
To actually, what's your aspiration?
Yeah.
What is it? How's that going to manifest itself? What we're going to see? What do we need to do? What do you need to do? How can we help you do what you need to do? Okay, how do we evidence that?
Yeah.
And actually that's become it, and that's been liberating, I think, for colleagues as an approach.
Just moving it around, moving the approach around. So how does that then lead, obviously, into the vision and the aims of the school, the mission of the school as well, and what you're looking to achieve? How does that all kind of align back in?
Well, the targets, you know, I want to become an astronaut. We have some moderation around where we are. I want to know how it's going to fit in to help us deliver on our mission, our priorities as a school. So it comes into there, but that can be broad in terms of what we do. It narrows down when it becomes your classroom impact or otherwise, or as support colleagues and support members of staff that are doing the same. But if we're all jumping and pointing in the right direction, we start to shift things. And really that's around it. And I'm using performance management, I'm using talent development as a key motivating tool. And I say by doing that, I'm not having to push staff at all.
You're encouraging them.
It's about the 3 E's. Engaging them, encouraging them, engaging them, and empowering them to see, own and solve their own CPD challenges, and then have the wherewithal to do something about it and get on with it. And in fact that's where the women ed quote of being 10% braver comes in. For some people, that imposter syndrome or whatever is in there that we face, actually deciding what we're going to do, having some quality coaching to help you come to your decisions, and then getting on and doing that and getting going, and actually celebrating those things as well. So that creating that culture of celebration, that culture of care, and within that care of developing and growing yourself
Yeah.
makes a big difference. In terms of mental health, being noticed and being connected
Yeah.
and
It's
learning
massive.
and volunteering and helping others, they're 5 of the key things that you should do to protect the 5 words to wellbeing to support you. It's a key tool in terms of making sure that wellbeing and motivation and morale is where it needs to be. And we've seen a real, again, it's on day 100, which was just before for a half term, was the third of the staff perception questionnaires, and that's just come through loud and proud about the team Westhoughton and about the direction we're travelling. We've got a mountain to climb in terms of the challenges as a school that we want to go in our aspirations,
Yeah.
but we're really on and we're picking up a speed and momentum with that.
Fantastic. So you're talking about impact as well. Have you seen any sort of direct impact in terms of your aspirations as a school? Has there been anything that you've identified? Obviously people are really fully on board with this and motivated with it.
I would say yes. In terms of the way we operate, it's a strange time.
Yeah.
I'll use lockdown 3 as the example.
Yeah.
When we ask people around lockdown 1 compared to lockdown 3, like many, there's been changes, but
Yeah, there has.
wholeheartedly, we've hit it so much better this time round. We came back in January with a bit of a perfect storm in a good way of all the children and staff that needed IT and connectivity and so on had got it in place.
Yeah.
The skills that the colleagues wanted to train, that we've invested into our talent development and our CPD, had got them to a position where they could use at least a basic level, if not more, to be able to do that, and the students the same. So we were able to put in an engagement. We set off at 100 miles an hour, really pleased with how we were going, listened to staff as we went along, and that within the talent, this feedback process we've got that we use worked really well, so that within a week and a half, we challenged and changed what we did, and even cut some time out of our lessons, 5 minutes off each of the lessons, or 5 to 10 minutes, to allow time for that transition between, because we didn't have that travel time. So rather than going 100 miles an hour, we're then going at 80 miles an hour. About a fortnight before half term, we decided 70 miles an hour sticking to the national speed limit was the speed we should go. And that, by doing that, is we made sure, part of that feedback again, that colleagues and children, when they're in school, you can go and get something from the canteen. If you're at home, you've got to put the kettle on, make a sandwich, do whatever else, and you didn't have the time. So actually giving some time back, so we're actually doing less better. That came from this process.
That kind of process.
And within the talent development framework, I talk about we kissed the swan. And the swan is the old national strategies, the strengths, weaknesses and next steps. For the next steps, that's the kiss. What we're going to keep, what we're going to improve, what we're going to stop doing, what we're going to start doing. That review cycle has come into here, into what we do for the online learning. So how colleagues have been able to really openly challenge each other and have those difficult conversations, that's been another development point for us to be able to do as a school. To have those conversations, to be open about what we need to do, has meant we've been able to really respond really quite quickly in our pedagogy in terms of how colleagues are working in that virtual environment, so that they can bring their own, sprinkle their own magic on those lessons, make sure that we're getting not just participation by logging on, but real engagement from the students and with the work submitted as well. So the impact is really in our response and how we're working as a team. The individuals within that, more people who've signed up for programmes, more people who are part of those programmes. One of the other responses we had within there, where we've seen an impact that's been just really welcomed, is to buy some time back. For our CPD, we took an hour from our students. It's spread out through the week, but on Wednesday, like some schools do, we close an hour early for the students and the hour after school, so we have 2 hours of quality CPD. Week one, it's faculty time for faculty to be able to develop and embed what they're doing within their classes, curriculum wise, teaching and learning wise. Week 2, it's your bespoke talent development time. So on week 2, if you're doing a coaching program, you're together with my group, 15 like-minded, that's where we do some work together, some coaching practice, etc., and some learning. During this lockdown, because we were people at home as well, we're not in the building, we've changed and adapted again, listening to colleagues. For Christmas, the staff didn't know it was happening, we bought them all a book. So whatever programme you're on, you've got a book. So the people doing the
which aligned to that actual programme.
So Stephen Tierney's Living Leadership was for the SLT one. We'd got, I used Andy Book's book. In fact, Andy does a little intro himself, a video for the staff as well to say it. We had a book each. So during this half term, or last half term, when we were in lockdown 3, we used our Wednesday CPD as a reading club. there's the chapter we're going to do, there we are, we talked about it and looked about what we might do next.
Yeah.
Real quality conversations, and staff loved the fact they could reconnect with colleagues because we weren't meeting.
Yeah.
And actually, in terms of the 5 ways to wellbeing, being connected, learning something new,
Absolutely,
just really helped in doing those ways. So we've become more, the impact, I think, we've become more responsive, more intuitive, the emotional intelligence around leadership and the nuances we're looking with colleagues there, that more colleagues are becoming more attuned to that. In terms of what's the impact we're seeing, what are the exam results going to be like, who knows right now.
Absolutely.
We're really making sure we are looking after ourselves individually and ourselves collectively so we can make the biggest difference for students. We're seeing good engagement, we're seeing good attendance, we think it will have the impact we want it to have.
Yeah.
So again, early days, we're only 1.5 terms into my tenure as the head teacher and its use. So I don't want to overclaim or over-glorify it at all, but we've made a really good start.
That's fantastic. So in terms of people being able to engage with the programme, can they come in at any point of the programme? Can they, take some time away from the programme if they wanted to?
Yes.
Is it quite flexible?
It is, it's meant to be that way.
Okay.
And that was really dear to my heart.
Yeah.
I didn't do particularly well at primary school as a student. I was the last kid at school to be given a pen. You know, you give them a pen, you get your pen licence or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was pencil. I was such a scruffy writer. I was just didn't, whatever. I would have had a label as a younger person, I'm pretty sure, of some sort. Okay. But I went to the secondary school. Consequently, we were streamed. I went into the bottom stream. And in the first week, they had my mum and dad in and said he's doing really well. And he could cope with the middle sets, but we only moved people at the start of the year. Yeah. So I stayed there. And then in the second year at school,
back a long time
back in the day, they came along and said he's doing really well here. We think he would cope with the top sets, but we have this policy we only move. So it was like 3 years before I got to go into top sets and was held back by a process. So for students, yes, but for colleagues as well, that's really dear. It's the right time for people. It's not always the right time and the right pace as well. Yeah, so I've currently got 3 members of staff who, when I said about having a solid floor, their floors are a little bit wobbly. Yeah. And that can be for a variety of reasons. It can be because there's not the impact in the role you should be having as a leader, and you need to step away from any other development and just focus on the role that you're doing. Yeah. And that's a support plan. Now that's maybe when people have thought support plans before, that's a more traditional support plan. But it's really not. It's a positive support plan because it's comes from the same point of love and care and wanting to develop and grow to allow people to move on. It could be that you've come back, as there was one colleague, I'd come back from maternity leave and actually getting used to the classroom. There's a wobble. That's cool.
And there may be other things that
there's
go
no
on
problem.
in their lives.
Any one of us can lose a parent. Any one of us can have a child that's sick. Any one of us can have, life happens. Yeah. And actually responding to that and allowing colleagues to flex with that without judgment, without fear, but to embrace that and actually step off. You want a temporary variance of contract, okay, that's what we'll do. Yeah. And now we've all in schools had to get better at that with people having to self-isolate or more flexible. But that's always been part of where I wanted. When I say always, I'd say in the last 10 years as a head teacher, I did what I thought I should do before that. Now it's about doing what's right. Yeah, and actually that's become, to me, ethical leadership in terms of why we do what we do, is that just drives everything. But allowing to do that has allowed us to be able to do that. So as people with a wobble, allow them to strengthen, support them and smother them in care to make sure they've got the right support they need. For some people, that happens really quite quickly. All right, I'm ready. Okay, now it's time to activate above your pay spine. Where do you fit in? Yeah. Or you're on here, you're doing that. Okay, your mum's not very well. It's not just you've got a cold, but your mum's not very well. Yeah. Step off, come away. No judgment. Yeah. Get yourself back on. Put your oxygen mask on. Look after yourself. Right. Let's get you right. We'll look after you in that position. We'll make sure you've got what you need, and then you're back in. And I think that culture of care, everything here is predicated on a culture of care. The talent development comes from a culture of care development as well.
Fantastic. So how do you think this programme can be rolled out, or other schools can use it rather than rolled out? How other schools could utilise this programme? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I've got a trail of schools I've been in that are using their own version of this now, and that's how it goes. I've shared this widely with anyone that wants to have a look and have a see and take the first slide, but then the sheet that you can populate yourself. I think in Bolton we've got this ideal situation that we've got this wonderful smorgasbord of opportunities within there that we can do, that people could just take that actually. Yeah. Or actually this framework I've got, take it, populate it with what you're doing in school, populate it with what's available within here, and you've suddenly got a wonderful set of programs. If you just keep it to the programs, it's just a program. For me, it's the bits that make it separate and different, are then how you treat each other, creating the time and finding the time to do the role, to allow the coaching, the associate positions, the work experience, the work shadowing, the special projects. Those things are the things that'll bring it alive and actually really give people that chance to develop and grow.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much, Patrick. So the talent development programme, the Westhoughton Talent Development Programme, is going to be on our website, on the Bolton Learning Partnership website, so we will give people access to that, and hopefully everything that you've talked about, they will be able to see how it kind of works in practice. They'll be able to understand how it works in practice. So.
Always happy to speak to any colleague who wants to look at their own situation as well, and give a lift up if people want that.
That's great. Thank you very much for your time.
Welcome.
Thank you.
To find out more about Bolton Learning Partnership or to get involved, please visit our website and follow us on social media. Together, we can support educational improvement and raise standards for all of our students.